All right. On the defensive side of the ball, of course, Miami has a new leader coming in from the University of Minnesota after a highly successful season with the Golden Gophers that finished with the fifth ranked defense in college football against a not daunting, but formidable schedule, of course, in the Big Ten, facing teams like USC, Penn State come to mind. Rushing attack at Iowa, that was one of the 15 or 20 best in the nation.
Yep.
And I'm probably missing a few others. Minnesota won a bowl game, finished 8-5. So your thoughts about Corey Hetherman?
Yeah, Corey Hetherman coming in as Miami's defensive coordinator quicker than I anticipated with Mario making a hire because, Mario Cristobal is very fastidious with his process. He's very detail-oriented. He's very meticulous. Falconer TRX! Got to throw it up, man. Good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, I just personally wasn't thinking it was going to be this short of a timeline from firing Lance Guidry to hiring the replacement. Just based upon what we've seen from Cristobal operations along this path in the past. I appreciate the fact that it got done quickly, and I think it needed to, especially, in the coaching industry. I'm sure that there are rumors that, they hear and know and everything. Tom Allen, after Penn State lost in the semifinal, he has departed Happy Valley to go to Clemson as their defensive coordinator, which means that the defensive coordinator job at Penn State is open, which is something that reading all the pieces afterwards, people were saying, yeah, Corey Hetherman probably would have been either near or at, the top of that list for that job. But Miami went in there and got him to leave Minnesota to come down to Coral Gables. He had just gotten an extension and a raise from PJ Fleck. I believe that this is the second year in a row in which a coordinator who got an extension and raise from Fleck in December was then hired away in January from the Gophers. And yeah, that's kind of just the cost of doing business. And this also proves my well-stated point, excuse me, that Miami will go hire someone away from a good job. And this is a guy who had a good job, was doing a great job, had just gotten a raise and an extension because of performance in that job, right? So you figure, oh, hey, got a raise, got an extension. I'm looking a little bit more intermediate and long term. Like, they're paying me more money just right now. I'm good. We got money, period. And we have the cachet of being the U still. And Corey Hetherman himself at his introductory press conference yesterday said, when asked what stood out about this opportunity, he said the chance to compete for championships. ACC national championship. I'm not saying that we're going to win, but this is a legacy program that has won. And you have the kind of talent here and the ability to go and do that. And maybe if you're looking at Minnesota would be off the top of the head, what? 7th, 8th in the pecking order in the Big Ten, give or take. Miami, you're a stone's throw, or I was going to be petty, but I'm not going to do that. You're the lack of a turnover away at Syracuse from going to Charlotte, competing for. So you're a play. You're like a singular play. You know what I mean? Away from competing for championships, and you have the kind of athletes that everybody dreams about coaching, and have been building this entire roster to do that. Obviously, we talked about already. We got transfers in the defensive secondary. We've recruited fairly well. Last year, I think, or this past class, I think, took a little bit of a step back. But yeah, man. So this is a guy who he's a young guy and has lots of potential. He's done very well for himself. Yeah, he a former college quarterback, like offensive player at Fitchburg State before he coached the quarterbacks there, went to Kings as an intern. He went through all of the major ones and everything. But, if you're thinking in the world of college football, the James Madison stop, that's the one. Maine, that's where he learned how to be a defensive coordinator, really. But that James Madison stop, that's where he kind of starts to be on the radar, because he won the FCS Assistant Coach of the Year award there when they went 12-2, played for a national championship, and also elevated up to D1 in 21. He was the defensive coordinator on that for that James Madison team. So if you think, oh yeah, I remember they were doing stuff in the the FCS playoffs and Corey Hetherman was there. So then you go to Rutgers. He was there. He was the linebacker coach when we played them in that bowl game. And then he goes to Minnesota, does what he did, and then now he's here. So, this is a guy who has, cut his teeth all the way up, has a degree in secondary education. He, has a teaching background and foundations. And I, as someone with a teaching foundation and background, I have a degree in music education myself. I was an educator for 20 years. I love that because you're not just talking at a person and saying, hey, cool, we're running this. You get, okay, well, your function and purpose is this. Why are we doing this? Right? So the pieces fit together. And hopefully with that knowledge and the ability to teach that and communicate that, if you know why you're doing what you're doing, you can perform that job to a level of excellence and not look to do someone else's job. And that, especially in defensive football, is where issues happen, right? Oh, I'm supposed to the Clemson game in 23, right? If I'm Corey Flagg on that last play of the game and I'm doing someone else's job, Miami doesn't win, right? But you say, okay, we're going to crash inside. I'm the linebacker. My job is to scrape over the top because they're probably going to run read option and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But if you do someone else's job, if he's like, oh, I think I can hit stick the running back, I'm going to actually not do my job and go do this other thing. And then Cade Klubnik walks in and Miami loses. So those kind of things can be foundational, just knowing why you're doing what you're doing. I hope Coach Hetherman is able to impart that. I'm interested to see what position he coaches and what the formation of the rest of the staff is going to be. I do believe that both Derek Nicholson and Jason Taylor are going to be retained by Mario Cristobal on the defensive side of the ball. You've had Joe Salavea go leave for a job at his alma mater at Arizona. Lance Guidry coached safeties and obviously was relieved of his duties as defensive coordinator. And then Chevis Jackson, who was brought in specifically by Lance Guidry because they had worked together previously. Well, look, if the man who brought you in is no longer in, that also means that you yourself are probably going to be out. So Chevis Jackson has moved on to Wake Forest as their defensive backs coach, but I struggle to find a world in which he would have been retained. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the assistant staff is rounded out, to go along with Hetherman, Taylor, and Nicholson, who, like I said, I believe are going to be here. But, as you look at the yards per game there, Minnesota, number 5 in the country, 285. If you go to yards per play, they're going to be number 12. At 4.76 yards per play allowed. These are the kind of things you want to see. And I believe, Coach Hetherman seems like he's a no-nonsense dude, bald dude. Shout out to bald dudes. He has a nice bushy beard. I'm unable to grow one of those myself, but hey. And he's just direct and focused, man. He's just like, we're going to be physical. We're going to, communicate. We're going to just be at the point of attack where we want to be the more physical team. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to, on all 3 levels, and we're going to do all these different kind of things, and we're going to do them well. And that's what we're here for. So, as Mark is cycling through these passing statistics, number 7 pass defense in some stats, number 9, I believe it was on the previous screen. This is someone who knows what they're doing, why structurally and foundationally. And, with that, background. And, Lance Guidry talked about being a high school teacher and a high school coach and everything. And it was picked up nationally on all these different outlets, saying that was foundational to understanding how to do the job at this level. And I believe Corey Hetherman is someone with that kind of foundation. I know it ended badly with Lance Guidry, and I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise. I will say there were moments of greatness, but they were sandwiched around trash, right? So if you remember all these games that Miami had to come back in, there were runs in like the 3rd and 4th quarter where the defense was locked down. And the fact that Guidry was able to make those adjustments and call those plays and get the players in position to stop the opposing offense, to give Miami the chance to come back in that game. Think Cal, think Virginia Tech. There had to be stops to be able to go and get scores and make a run. That's how you do that. And I've believed that my entire life, foundationally and functionally. If you're going to go on a run, it starts with defense. It starts with getting stops. And Miami did that at times. It was just few and far between. So, yeah, I think it was the right decision to move on. But, yeah, if you're looking for a rising star in the coaching ranks and someone who has demonstrated at multiple levels the ability to do it, and again, if you go back and look at his CV, you're talking from Division III on up. Hey, we're going to do this. We're going to do it well. We're going to learn these different kind of things, and we're going to step up, and we're going to, do this, and implement these schemes, and it's going to work. And then we're going to step up and step up and step up and step up. That's who Corey Hetherman is. Very excited to see what he brings to Miami. And, yeah, I'm excited for this defense. Shout out to OJ Frederick, a Football Writers Association of America true freshman All-American. Shout out to the other Miami defensive back, also named to that team, being the Poyser kid who transferred in. He also was a freshman All-American. So now you have two freshman All-Americans from this past season collaborating together, along with the guys who get back, like a Damari Brown, who basically was an entire lost season. You get other guys developing, other guys transferring. You get guys in this recruiting class, especially in the secondary, which was such a huge issue for Miami. The pieces are there to be able to do something, and the front four and front seven should be, and as you see, Mark 50, you missed it. Miami. Yeah. In terms of the rating allowed, I believe that was. But yeah, if we could have traded the number 50 passing defense for number 7 this past year, not saying it's a sure thing, there's a chance that Miami's playing on Monday night. You know what I mean? Like that would, sheesh. But hey, we'll see. But yeah, this is someone that I'm excited about. We don't know what he's going to do here, but he's been successful at many other stops, won awards, stepped up in level, and continued to raise the level of his personal excellence and the team performance, things like that. And yeah, you're going from a Minnesota team, which is okay, but again, mid-pack in the Big Ten, still won 8 games, and then, coming to the University of Miami, where, I'm sorry, you just have better talent on the roster. That should make everyone excited to see what he can do with the better talent.
It was just a couple of weeks ago when we were outlining the marginal play of the past events that we were bringing up this exact chart. And what's obvious here is a few things. There are very few teams in the country that intercept more passes than giving up touchdown passes. And again, the rating, which takes into consideration completion percentage, which is low against Minnesota last year, and also the yards per attempt, and then that touchdown to pick a ratio that comprises the rating, 7th best pass defense in the country for Minnesota. And maybe just to extend on your point about the difference between Miami and Minnesota, for me, I would say it this way. PJ Fleck went 11-2 at Minnesota in 2019. He has posted 2 9-4 seasons. I don't know if much more than that can be squeezed out of that program. They just don't have that many football players in the area. They have not proven the ability to get volumes of players. Sure, they have the Antoine Winfield Juniors that move on to the NFL that are great players, but in volume, I think he's doing about as good a job as you can do there. And yeah, 7th, 8th in the Big Ten is about their spot. And when they go 8-5, 9-4, that's a pretty damn good season, as opposed to Miami, even though the last 20 plus years have been marginal. Mm-hmm. We know that this has arguably been the best program in the country for a span of 20 years, from the early 80s to the early 2000s. And we know all the advantages that Miami has. And even when it's been down, that elevation or that potential has been obvious to everyone, as opposed to looking at Minnesota and saying, That's who they are. That's what they are. And if you get a really good coach, they can squeeze out another 2 wins, but there's just not the potential there.
Right.
Doesn't
Yeah.
exist.
No, I definitely agree with that. So, interested to see what'll happen. Somebody asked me in the comments, who do I want for defensive backs coach? I don't know, because there are defensive backs coaches all over the place. I know the people, Anthony Manzano, who would be the targets for DB coach, because DB coach from Minnesota is rumored to maybe be stepping up into the DC job that was just vacated by Hetherman. Anybody is available, pretty much. Again, with this hire, again, we've proven that we will go take somebody from their good job and hire them for the better job here at Miami. So, I think that pretty much anybody is available. We'll see how that goes. But I'm not going to sit here and be like, and look, we've had T-Rob. That was Travaris Robinson. That's somebody that I was hoping for many a year. Had him here. Okay, cool. Jamil Adai got from Georgia also. Cool. Shout out to Georgia for giving us so many players and coaches over the years. Thank you. And also you're welcome if you don't know sign language, but what's the name? Ajay. He was down here as the coach, but now he's coaching in the league with the Buffalo Bills going into the second round of the playoffs. So, we can go get great coaches and things, so I'm not really concerning myself with that. And sometimes the person that you're focused on is not the person that you need. And we've seen that in a couple other things. So I don't really know. The world is our oyster. I'm not saying that every single coach would or could come here, but I think it's pretty possible that we could go and get somebody from, a sitting coach from another good job for that.